Coach Tracy, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on this live.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
So excited. So we launched our magazine this week. So we're excited. It's now called Learning, Living, and Leading. It was called Parenting, Learning, and Living before. We changed it to be more universal because our system is now more universal as well. We can serve anyone at any age. Doesn't matter what label or anything, we can serve you with our Readiness OS. So that's what we're here to talk about. But Tracy, before we get started, I always like to start with breathing because we're so good at what? What are we so good at? We're so good at thinking about our past.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps us so busy, right? I don't know about you guys, but there are a lot of people who think about their past a lot of time in their day. And then there are people who project the past and think about their future. Yes. Mm-hmm. But both of these do not bring us now and here. The only place we can create and make any change in our life is if we are here and now. But unfortunately, we're always in the past or in the future, recreating something or thinking about something that happened. So let's take a breath. I know everybody needs a breath. So let's take inhale of 4 and hold for 4. And exhale for 8. Whatever you're carrying today, whatever you've been thinking about today, just let it go because we all need a long breath, right? And exhale is good. So let's do that again. Inhale for 4. And hold for 4. And really let go any pressure, any stress, any worry, anything you've been thinking about the past, anything about the future, just let it go with your exhale because it helps to just release it. And let go. Right, Tracy?
That always feels great.
Yes, let's do one more time. Last time. Inhale for 4. Hold for 4. And really make a sound and let it go. Anything that you've been carrying, whatever you've been thinking about, just let it go and bring yourself now and here because we have some exciting things to share with you today. So welcome, Tracy. Thank you so much for taking this time to be here. So, you know, something I've been thinking about, if we think about output, right, for human beings, we always measure by grades, our best behaviors, if we're compliant, and if we're performing. This is how we measure our output, right? We've been measured like that at home, then at school, then we get a job, then we have to perform. It never ends, right? It never ends. So you wrote an article, Tracy. You've been in the education system for over 30 years.
I have.
Part of that time, you've been a principal, school, as a leader, right? So you wrote an article on our in this magazine, which is all about ending the try harder or just keep trying or just put more effort, you know, that era, and really bringing in the Readiness OS, right? We talk about that a lot. But a lot of people don't know what we're talking about because it's so brand new and it's different. So tell me, over the years, what do you notice about being a leader in the classroom? What do you notice now? Like, tell me about what is going on.
Well, I know that, you know, for many, many years, I think we've all known something was wrong. We just didn't know what. And, you know, we've been conditioned to think that if we just work harder, if parents just work harder, if teachers just work harder, if we expect kids to work harder, then they're going to be successful and we're going to be good parents and we're going to be good teachers and everything is going to be fine. But, you know, in the past 30 years, 20 as a principal, I've met all kinds of people that are working as hard as they can possibly work. They're doing a great job and it's not making a difference and they're frustrated. Well-meaning parents who love their kids deeply and are doing absolutely everything to help them. Teachers, highly skilled, hardworking, doing all the things, all the strategies, and it's still not working. And so I think we've known for a long time, but we just didn't know why. Why is it not working? We're doing all the things.
So in our article, this issue, we focused on what we need to unlearn,
Mm-hmm.
because before we can change something that has been in our culture for so long, we have to unlearn some things, right? So you wrote an article based on that. So I have a question for you. So you said that about a hallway. Take us back to that hallway. What did you feel in your body in that moment? Do you remember when you wrote about in that article about a hallway?
Yes, we had another meeting with well-meaning parents and fabulous teachers, and it was just spinning around the same topics of, we're doing all of the things and it's not working. And it just felt like, we're focusing on the wrong thing. And trying harder isn't solving the problem. So we're missing something. What is it that we're missing? And it was sort of in that moment where it dawned that they're not ready. They're just not ready for the strategies. They're not ready to work harder. They're not ready to hear what parents are saying and what teachers are saying. They're just not ready. And if we don't focus on getting them ready, the strategies aren't going to help. The expectations aren't going to stick. They're just not going to be able to do what we need them to do, which means that we need to do something differently.
So, but strategies are supposed to work, right? I mean,
Hmm.
we're creating it, we're looking at the child, we're looking at the behavior, and we're really focusing on getting the right strategy for the right students. And it's pretty new, it should work. Why isn't it working?
Because they're not ready. The system isn't ready to hold it. And so the strategies might be fantastic. And once the child's ready, they will work. But until the child's system is ready to receive it, it's not going to land. They just are not able to do anything with those strategies in that moment.
Yeah. So how do we shift our generation of people who have been taught that just find the next strategies, just find the next hack, just find the next tips, just find what works, right? Keep trying, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we shift it though? How would we shift that we're not ready and we're a living being and we're a living human and we have biological systems that's operating us, and all of those systems has to be in alignment and in activation for us to even be in the state to learn and receive, as you said, hold it, right? The strategy has to be held by the learner and they're not able to.
I think that we're at a point now where people are frustrated and they're suffering and our kids are suffering. And I think that people are at a point now where they understand we need to do something different. And I usually explain to parents that right now your child is a passenger on a vehicle they can't control. And what we really need to do is teach them how to be the pilot. We need to teach kids how their body works, how their systems work, how to regulate those systems. And I think a lot of times we label kids with all manner of labels, and with very good intentions, it makes them feel broken. And if we focus on the systems running their bodies and teach them how to unblock those systems and how to get themselves into flow, then it feels hopeful. It doesn't make them feel broken like a label does.
Yes.
It gives them hope that there's something they can do about it.
Yes. So, but labels are supposed to help though. Like that's why we have labels. Aren't they supposed to help you as a teacher, as a principal? Those should help you to get them calm and get them into the state of learning and get them to receive the content, no?
They give us the strategies, which we've just said don't work unless the child system is ready. So the label is a starting point. It shouldn't be the end. It should be the very beginning of curiosity. It's where we start to ask questions and learn and figure out how this child's system works. So labels have their place in, I guess in giving us specific strategies. But where they fall short is when we start to use the label as a way to remove expectations, where we place a ceiling on children based on that label, and that gives them an identity of brokenness. Well, I can't do that because I have autism. I can't do that because I have ADHD. And then we really have a problem, because if they identify as broken, it's very, very, very hard for them to move past that, right? We have to get them out of that thinking and show them that they are capable of many, many things, that those labels are not defining who they are and how capable they are.
Yes. In your life, what have you unlearned, after becoming a holistic neurogrowth success coach? What was it that you had to unlearn?
So many things. I had to unlearn that working harder is not necessarily going to yield a different result. We just have to work differently. I also learned that, the labels, while helpful, are not the answer. And I learned that sometimes the labels aren't necessary if we regulate the nervous system first. If we look at the system as a living, breathing, biological system, and we learn how to regulate our nervous system, that some of those behaviors that manifest as communication from some system in our body no longer present the same way. So I had to unlearn a lot of things around labels and working harder and performance, and there was a lot of unlearning.
Yeah. So if a child is not in the state to learn, but we have a curriculum to finish and then get them ready for the next grade, as a teacher, what do they need to unlearn at this moment in our schooling? Like, we have a major behavior problem. So we have to unlearn something. What do you think they need to unlearn?
I think teachers need to give themselves permission to pause, take a breath, and prioritize regulating their own and their children's nervous systems long before they can teach anything. The learning isn't going to land in the midst of chaos. But if we all learn to regulate our nervous systems, then learning will happen organically. It will happen easily. It will happen with joy and curiosity. But right now we are cramming curriculum into a vessel that isn't ready to receive it. And so that's where that conflict, comes from. Kids are dysregulated. Teachers feel pressure to teach more curriculum. And teachers do a wonderful job of, talking to kids about their feelings. They do some mindfulness work. They do all of those things in an attempt to calm things down and put children in the right state for learning. But what we do not do in education is we don't teach children how their brain works, how their body works, the 12 systems that are running it, and how they can manage it themselves, and what they can do when things aren't working as they wish they were.
The biggest shift is, as a holistic neurogrowth success coach, is the fact that we allow the child or the person who going through our coaching to feel like they're in control of all of this. Not somebody else, not the label, not the next student sitting beside you because they're behaving that way, so I should be like this, right? We tell them that they're in control. You have full control of everything. So now how can you move forward with that? Empowerment, right? So they have that empowerment. And that's exactly what happens to educators as well, is the empowerment that I should be in control of all of this. Mm-hmm. Even though I have 10 kids who are not behaving the right way, I'm still in control of my systems, because that calmness brings the calmness to the whole classroom, right? But the teachers, I have to say, they're worried that they get marked, they get observation, they get people coming in saying, how come you're not controlling this class? How come you're not finishing the curriculum? You're behind. We need to do testing. We need marks. We need data. So there's lots happening for them to decide that, I'm going to stop and regulate myself and see how many of these kids can I regulate as I'm regulating myself. It's hard, right, in a classroom?
For sure. I think the most important thing is to remember that we teach children. We don't teach curriculum. So the kids have to come first. Their nervous system, their state of learning must come first before the curriculum. It's not going to land anyway without that. But it's hard. It's hard when teachers are feeling the pressure of having to perform.
So is it time for the district and the hierarchy in the education system to say that readiness, like get the kids into the state to learn before pushing anything, and stop telling the teachers to push the curriculum onto these kids when there's regulated and disconnected?
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Absolutely.
working.
Absolutely.
It's not working. How
Mhm.
many more behaviors can we handle? And why are we almost torturing the kids? I mean, they're not getting what they need either. And the parents don't know what to do. Teachers don't know what to do. So
Mhm.
are we at the point, Tracy, that we can say we have a bigger problem now than just finishing curriculums?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, learning is important. Absolutely. No one is going to dispute that.
Of course.
Assessment, curriculum, all of that. They need all of that. The
Yes.
the problem is the timing. They first need to be regulated and in a state where learning can happen, and then the curriculum will land, learning will become easier, the assessment scores will go up, all of those things that we want to see. We want kids learning, we want them to be successful, we want the scores to go up. The problem is we're just doing it in the wrong order.
Yeah. And what about for parents at home? How much do they understand about their children and being in the state to learn? Because we our system, we are a product of the same system, right? Education system.
Mhm.
We went through the same education system, all of us, and it's assumed that we all would know how to get into the state of learning, which is flow and focus and paying
Mhm.
attention. And then we expect our children to be in the flow state as well, because I was expected. So I
Mhm.
would expect my child should also figure it out, because I figured it out.
Yeah. I see one of two things with parents. I see the parents who feel their kids just need to try harder. Just try harder. If you worked harder, then you would be successful. So they want more homework. They want more, more structured learning. They want the child to just try harder. And then I see the parents whose child may have a label, may have a learning disability, may have something that is making learning more difficult, and they want more support. They want an adult to sit beside them. And it's really hard as a parent because you just want your child, you want to give your child everything they need to be successful. And I think sometimes we over accommodate and we over modify and we over support, because I've never seen anyone walking through the mall with a one-to-one EA. So at some point, we have to become independent. And if we over accommodate and over modify for kids, then we are doing them a disservice. Instead, we need to teach them how to become independent. We need to teach them how to manage their own body systems. We need to do if they're struggling, how they can accommodate themselves. And only then will we have taught them something transferable that they can take with them into the real world when there isn't going to be somebody sitting beside them.
Yeah. So parents are struggling,
Mm-hmm.
right? You see that all the time in your school system too, right? It's just they're just struggling, and we're just giving more labels. Sometimes it's more medication. They're just
Mm-hmm.
trying everything. And these days, we have these workshops on labs. We call them on Wednesdays for parents, right? We do
Mm-hmm.
them every Wednesday. It's free. If anybody wants to join us, let us know. Now, when they come to that meeting, they come to get more strategies that they can take back and start trying the day after or the night of, right? So we don't give strategies because strategies are generic.
Mm-hmm.
And if parents keep getting these generic strategies and tips and start trying, that is why they're burned out. They don't believe anything is going to work for their kid because nobody is giving them exactly what's customized for their situation or what's going on, just a
Mm-hmm.
generic one. And that they are searching every day for it on the internet, everywhere. So you saw last week, right, how hard was some of the situation we saw. but
Mm-hmm.
they were still after strategy. So how do we shift the parents that you look at your child as a living system and they need to be ready? Strategies don't work if they're not ready. You can try all you want, it won't work. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. They have to feel the shift. And that's what you do so well at those parenting labs is helping parents feel the shift without writing down a list of strategies. They feel it in their body when their own nervous system regulates. And then we try to, show them how they can do that with their child and then co-regulate with their child, because the child will borrow from their nervous system regulation before they can find their own.
Yes. And if we're parenting from that fear state, if I'm in the state of fear all the time, I'm going to do something wrong, this is not going well, and I'm worried, I'm just not sure what's going to happen, I might have to go see somebody to get a label. All of these fear as parents we induce onto our kids automatically. Our kids know immediately, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
so good at, they're like, they have the antennas. They can just pick up the signal right off, easy. Like my son used to ask, "What's wrong, mom?" I say nothing, and he would be like, "No, mom, what's wrong? What's wrong?" They
Mm-hmm.
know, they
They
know,
can
right?
feel it.
So what's your take on what parents need to unlearn at this moment where we're at?
I think parents just need to know that they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to have all the answers. They don't have to know all the strategies. They just need to be present in the moment with their child and breathe.
Yeah.
And, I love the, when we do the pulse activity and we talk about how your child's first language was rhythm, your rhythm, the rhythm of your pulse, the rhythm of your breath. And, just taking parents back to something very simple that they can all do. And it's so much more impactful than all the words and all the strategies and all the other things that we've been, taught to do.
Yeah. The more we script, right? The more we bring in strategies, we're disconnecting from our children.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not really reading what they need. We're bringing in external sources and we're trying to fit them through this mold that worked for somebody else. And they say it works. And that's why in this world right now, where people are like saying it as it will work, do this, is such a crime because you don't know it's going to work or not.
Yeah.
You don't even know them. And when people come to me and talk to me, even educators sometimes come, every week I see so many of them, they would ask, so how does this system work? How does this process work? How would I coach anyone, everyone? We have to customize it because
Mm-hmm.
customization is everything. We are a human. We are a living human. We're always changing with every variable that's happening to us. We're constantly changing. So how can one system, this is why our education system is not working at the moment, because we try to put everybody through the same mold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if
And every child is so different. And, where they're blocked is so different. And what their behavior is explaining is so different. And so it's so important to get to know every kid and be able to customize what they need. And parents can do that too, just by being present in the moment. Forget about your list of strategies. Just breathe and look at your child and listen to your child and just sit beside your child. And it will come. What they need will come if we just listen.
Yeah, I'm gonna play the opposite side right now with you, Tracy, because I know I'm listening as a parent. I'm going, you don't know what I go through. My house is a mess. It's a disaster. He's yelling or she's yelling, and they're breaking things. They're angry at me. How can you say just breathe?
It's very, very difficult. There's no question it's difficult. But until we learn to regulate our own nervous system, then we have no hope of bringing calm and peace to that chaotic situation. So it is hard work. There's no question about it. And it's counterintuitive. We want to fix it as parents. We want to jump in, find the solution, apply the strategy, and move on. But that's not the way it works. So first we have to do some work ourselves and regulate our own system. and then teach our kids how to regulate their system. And only then can we restore peace and calm, and then perhaps apply some strategies. But the strategies aren't going to work in the meantime.
Yeah. So to a parent like that, I have to add also what Tracy said as well, but add also that think about it. Is it working for you so far?
Mm-hmm.
And because when I say to breathe, some people think, come on, just breathe. But it's so important because when we breathe, we automatically are not forcing anything. We automatically become in rhythm and flow. In rhythm and flow, the other person in front of us is going to feel that I'm no longer at that agitated state, or I'm not angry, or I'm not coming at them. Because anytime as parents we go at somebody, at our kids, they're not going to listen no matter what. We all had experience like that, right? It's better that we take the opposite route. So for those of you who are listening to us, if you think breathing, come on. I want you to try it tonight. Try it next time your child is, giving you a hard time. Try to take that breath. Try to, go backward instead of leaning in and going with that force. Find your flow, right? Tracy, we've seen it again and again in our coaching.
And
When
stop
parents
talking. Stop talking. Because they can't negotiate with you if you are not talking. They can't argue with you if you are not talking. So I think we often do far too much talking. What's the matter? What are you feeling? Tell me about your big feelings. What do you need? What can mommy do? And it's just too much. We just need to stop and be quiet and breathe and restore calm. And kids are really good negotiators, but you cannot negotiate with someone who is not responding.
Yeah, already. You're just wasting time and wasting energy, and you're gonna get angry, and it's gonna go the wrong way. And we all had those moments, right? I'm not gonna say I never did. We all had it. But now that I know better, and I've helped, you helped thousands of people, and I've helped thousands of people, breathing and finding our calm and flow rhythm is the only way to parent kids. And they borrow that because they're, as I said earlier, they have these antennas. The more calm I get, they're like, why shouldn't she get agitated? She should be angry at me now. She's not. Like, even that's going to shock them, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reaction of me doing the opposite to what used to happen will shock them and go, it's not working anymore.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? So try it. If you're like doubting, just try breathing, walk away. As Tracy said, just don't talk. Because how many times we try to get reasoning into our kids while they're angry or throwing a tantrum, or we're like, listen, let me help you understand this. There's no understanding gonna work. Nothing's gonna. They're offline, completely offline. Just walk away, and then deal with it when you're calm and in that space. So Tracy, you in the article you wrote about what you should remember, because it was about unlearn, learn, know, and remember. What should parents remember? Always, doesn't matter what happens.
I think they should always remember that their child is not broken. Anything that they are communicating through their behavior is communication. It's not their child just, they don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to melt down today, right? They are not broken. They're just blocked. And if we can figure out where the block is and release it, then they will return to you. But it's hard in the moment to do that. And it's also hard when the school is calling and we have, observations, and we are going to the doctor and we're getting the labels. I mean, it's really hard as a parent not to worry about your child and worry that there's something wrong.
But then the minute we start worrying and we're full of fear and worry, they feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing about nervous system, is that they scan it. They sync with my feeling that I'm fearful. That then is going to induce fear in them. Anxiety. Mm-hmm. That's why we have a lot of anxiety right now in a lot of households, right? Because of this. So parents need to, again, Yeah, we have a situation. How can I, in a calm way, not induce that onto my child? As you said, giving them a label and sharing the label, we can share what that means to them. But if they start owning it as I'm broken, like you say, it's not a good thing, because we see it now. We see it so much, right? Yeah. So
Mhm.
what about teachers? We talked about other day, um, they should know better. Parents say this too, right? They should know better, the child or the student, and there should be some consequences, because these behaviors are out of control, right? Consequences, because that's how we teach kids,
Mhm.
right? And what is the punishment here? What are the consequences? There's no consequence. How are these kids going to go into the real world and like function? We're not doing anything for them. We're not teaching them.
And again, just like the curriculum, consequences are important. So are expectations, responsibility, respect, all of those things. But I usually explain it like a pitcher of water. If you can envision a pitcher of water full right to the top, and then you have another pitcher, and in that pitcher, you put expectations, consequences, rules, regulation, responsibility, respect, all the things you want kids to learn. And then you pour the second one onto the already full first one. Where is the water going to go? Certainly
Oh,
not into the pitcher. It's going to go everywhere else, but none of it is going in. So what I try to explain to teachers is, first we have to get some of the other water out to make space. And then when we make space for the child to hold the expectations, the consequences, the respect, responsibility, all of those things, when we pour the second pitcher in, they'll be able to hold it. It will stick. They will learn it. But we can't put one before the other. If there's no space for the child to hold it, then that's where we need to focus first, on making space. We need to prepare them able to learn and hold what we need them to learn.
but I just feel like, as a teacher, if I was in the classroom, I would feel like they're just getting away from everything, getting off from everything, and there's just no consequence for anything in their behavior. They say bad things, they do bad things to others. I mean, my classroom is, because of their behavior, I can't even teach to the other kids. They're not learning. Other kids are getting disturbed. So now they don't have anything. Like,
It's hard, and that's exactly how it feels. It's exactly how it feels to teachers. But if they're not going to learn it anyway, so the child misbehaves and we suspend them. So that suspension is great. They go home, they love it. And the teacher gets a bit of a break, and the other kids get a bit of a break. But what has changed in the child's behavior? Nothing. Then they come back and nothing is different. In fact, in some cases, they come back angrier. So now they're coming back in fight or flight mode. And so now the behavior ramps up. But suspension is not going to change behavior in and of itself. We need to do things differently. And even though it might make us feel really good in the moment, because we've solved the problem for today, it really is not the answer. It is not changing behavior. And until we can change behavior, we're not going to get a different result. And the only way to change behavior is to create space within that child so that their nervous system feels safe, and then learning can happen. And by learning in this case, I mean learn the expectations and be able to hold the consequence and learn from it.
yeah. Yeah. As you said, when they're full and we pour more of this, what we want into it, there's no space for them to hold anything. It's going to overflow. And that's what they're doing. The overflow is the behavior. Overflow. This is going to show you. I'm going to show you. I'm overflowing. I'm angry. So then what would be the lens that teachers can take? It's hard to take, but what is the lens that we can all start putting on, instead of the consequence, instead of using the word there's no consequence here and being so frustrated with that? What do you think would be a better lens for them to start wearing and looking at that child through?
I like the thought of timing. So yes, consequences are important, but they aren't the first thing. First, we have to look at the child and decide, what do they need in order to make space to hold my consequences, to hold my expectations? What is it that they need do we need to slow things down for them? Do we need to teach them a little bit more about how their body works? Do they need a quiet space every once in a while where they can go and, do some breathing and calm their system? We need to look at every child and figure out what needs to happen first. How do we prepare the soil first before we plant the seed?
Mm-hmm. So through those, I'm hearing a couple of words that I want to bring out. Is you're saying be compassion, show compassion. Mm-hmm. The lens would be compassion, even though we're angry and we know it's terrible and all of that, we still have to maintain compassion, because this system, like if we think of it as a biological system, this child is not doing it for purpose. Mm-hmm. Their system is offline. They're showing behavior because they don't know how to handle that system themselves. They don't understand them. They don't know the system. They're just out of control because of that. And then, of course, there's environmental input that's going into their body that's going to stress them out more as well. So compassion is first. But then you said something else, which is beautiful, is curiosity. Mm-hmm. You said, get very curious.
We have to figure it out. It's like a puzzle. Yeah. And every child's different, and none of them come with an instruction manual.
We don't get a box, how the picture is going to end up with. I just get puzzle pieces.
I have looked for the instruction manuals. None of them have it.
But I even a picture would help, like a complete picture. I don't need manual.
Nope. Got to figure it out.
So we got pieces everywhere. We're going to figure out how this comes together.
Yes.
So patience. So teachers.
Patience, for sure.
Curiosity, compassion, patience. That's why teachers have to regulate themselves. Forget you regulating anybody else first, right? It's like they always say, right? It's like you're on the plane. If there's an emergency, you got to wear the mask yourself. The oxygen goes on you first. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be saving
help others unless you look after yourself first.
Yeah, and teachers are burned out. They're not looking after themselves because a lot of teachers feel like they're failing their students. They're very sad that they're failing their students because they don't know how to handle this. So what would you tell them? What's their first step?
Breathe. Just take a breath. Nothing needs to be finished today. And there's lots of things we can do with the curriculum once the child is ready. We can do recursive, we can combine, we can do cross-curricular things. We can cover it once a child is ready. We don't need to force it before they are. And I think teachers just need to, first of all, learn to prioritize their own well-being, regulate their own nervous system, and then give themselves permission to pause and give the children what they need before trying to cram the curriculum.
But what about if I get in trouble for not finishing it? Because I have a boss, I have to report. I mean, you're a beautiful principal, right? But there are other principals who are like, what are you doing?
Well, I imagine that if you're cramming curriculum, it's not working. And so I think, necessity is the mother of invention. At some point, you have to try to do things differently, because if this isn't working, we have to get creative. And so
it's insanity, right? It's insanity to do something's not working. As Albert Einstein said. Yes. If it's not working, you're killing yourself by doing something that's not working. Mm-hmm. It's time to stop.
But it is magical when you try the nervous system approach, regulate your own, teach them how to regulate theirs, calm the classroom, and then start teaching. It's a totally different experience.
But many teachers might say, we do that. We do yoga, we do poses, we do breathing, we do mindfulness, we have music going, we have even the sound bowl spinning or working too. We have all of these things. We're already doing those, and they don't work.
Mm-hmm. But we have a bunch of kids that identify as broken. And we haven't addressed that. We haven't addressed that piece. The kids have no idea how their brain works. They have no idea how their body works. They can identify the parts of the body, but they don't really know how their systems work and what they can do when they're not working the way that they should. And when a child feels safe from a nervous system perspective, then they don't exhibit the same kinds of behaviors that we're seeing in schools with the level of dysregulation.
Yeah. And then also bringing in this education about we're a biological system. This system needs to be understood, and how it becomes ready to learn and into the flow state has to be part of our curriculum, and which is not, and which is why you are so passionate about bringing this into every classroom.
100%. It is the missing link in education. It is the one thing we do not do anywhere. We assume readiness everywhere. We assume readiness in school. We assume readiness in tutoring. And it doesn't matter if it's public school, private school, homeschooling. We assume that the child has arrived ready to learn, and we hit the gas and teach the curriculum and hope that they achieve. But we've missed a whole bunch of work that has to happen before that. We need to check for readiness.
So what would a readiness first classroom actually feel like? Can you describe that feeling? Imagine that.
Imagine it would
be because we're going to manifest it anyway. It's coming. It's coming. So we'll just imagine it.
It would be calm. Children would not feel broken. And it would have an emphasis on independence, meaning independently being able to manage my body, understanding what my body is feeling long before it gets to the point where I'm so frustrated I throw a chair or flip the desk, or, there are signs long before that a child experiences in their body. And if they don't understand what those signs are telling them, they can't do anything about it. But if we could teach them, oh, I'm starting to feel butterflies in my tummy, or my hands are starting to get sweaty, or my fingers are tingling, then we can stop it there. They can take some deep breaths. They understand I need to go get a drink, or I need to go for a quick walk. And then they learn how to regulate their own systems. And then we're not going to see the point where we get to this, huge escalation that interrupts everybody's learning.
Because right now, schools are managing kids.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get every child to be in control of themselves.
Yes.
I have control over me. I have intrinsic accountability and responsibility for me. And that puts us in power position. I control myself, right? If we could get that, that was the profound thing I learned, when I tried to end my life. That was the thing, that my mind played games, right? Our mind is powerful. It can tell us a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. It's, telling us so many different things. How do we know what's right and what's wrong? I mean, you don't know what I'm thinking, right? The teacher doesn't know what I'm going through before I'm going to throw his chair.
No. And may not notice until the chair is thrown.
Yeah. But I might have happened. Yeah. So that child might have had some trauma that just flashed back or forth, or somebody triggered because somebody said triggered something that happened in the past, and that's why the chair went. They're not going to share that with anybody when they threw the chair, right? They're going to hide it because they're not in a safe place to share that. I'm just making this as a thing, right? Example. It's not. So what I'm saying is, until we learn to help our students and our young adults even understand how the mind talks to us and all those information that's coming all the time at us, how to control that and calm that down. We can't always be externally calming it down, because that's what we're trying to do with these kids, right? The behavior, right? We're trying to calm their mind down as we don't even know what it's telling them as it.
Yeah, but then it's making them dependent on other people.
Yes.
Right. And we want to make them independent, because then they have transferable skills that they can apply to things at home when they're frustrated. Or, what do we do as adults if we're in a crowded space and we start to feel that, anxiety of this place is too loud, too crowded, we do things that calm ourselves down. We breathe, or we take space, or we come back another day and we leave that situation in that moment. We go for a walk. There's things we do And those are the things we need to teach kids to do, to recognize
So,
what's happening and fix it for themselves.
so because we're generations of chasing the results, output focused, everything we tell our kids, or even our children or ourselves, we're told that be disciplined, have positive mindset. All of these things are results. Nobody teaches us how to get there, but they tell us be disciplined. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to be disciplined, but I'm not sure how that works, but I'm disciplining myself. There's no steps to these things, right? Even positive mindset, it's a result. How do I get to positive mindset? What do I need to do within myself to get to positive mindset?
Mm-hmm. And
Now we
that needs to
say,
be part of our teaching.
and then they say, be intrinsically motivated. Oh, great. I want to be motivated. Tell me. I don't know how to get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be responsible. I have no idea, because sometimes what we thought were like common sense in the days, people would say that's common sense. We got to stop that, because we don't need to expect anything anymore. That expectation, right? Assumption, expectations. And then we want output, we want grades, we want performance, and only then we are valued. This is why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Because only our worth and value is associated with how good I am, how good I can behave, and how much grades I can get, and how I can perform.
Yeah.
Everything.
And then they feel broken when they can't succeed. Right. So it just reinforces that feeling of brokenness for kids. I'm working hard and I'm not being successful. And it just one more thing that, compounds the label, the medications, all of the things that go together to make a child feel broken.
Yeah. So what would you tell your younger self in that hallway we talked about earlier in your article you shared about the hallway incident?
Oh, I would tell myself there is a different way. I would tell myself there is hope, and that nothing should ever feel hopeless. No child is ever broken. And there is always, always something we can do. And as soon as we give children that sense of hope and make them feel that they are in control of their own body, it's so empowering. And then you go from an identity of brokenness to an identity of empowerment and confidence. And that's when they can start succeeding.
Yeah. And that was the biggest thing I learned is I have control over my brain. No one else does. And I acted before my suicide as if somebody else had ownership of it. And then next time I woke up and I realized, you know what? I have ownership of this thing. I can tell what I wanted to believe.
Mm-hmm.
So when that came, as you said, it's the empowerment of that piece. Then nobody can adjust you other than yourself. You're the only one who can make you fail. You're the only one who can make you succeed. You're the only one. And we can't point fingers at anyone. Everything else is just a variable. You just learn how to play with them. Because we're a living thing, right? Yeah. We're a living thing. So our world isn't, that's why I call everything I do a lab, because it's like an experiment. You experiment with different variables to see what your mind can do with it, right? So if Readiness OS existed 20 years ago, what would have changed in the way you were a leader for teachers and educators?
Everything. I would have been a much different teacher, a much different principal, and a much different parent, because I would have stopped looking for those strategies. I would have stopped trying to, work harder and see a different result and expecting my child or the kids at school to do the same. I would be okay with stepping back, taking a breath, and trying to figure out, each individual child. And I would have told myself that one size doesn't fit all. And so we have to be creative, be curious. It's like a puzzle, and we have to try to look for all the pieces.
Yeah, you said we don't even get a picture. So I better figure it out. I better figure out how this thing works. I might have to sit there, fixing it. So what is it different in your nervous system and how your systems now after working as a readiness OS coach?
I'm far calmer and more patient. I listen more and more deeply. So I listen for things that aren't necessarily said. I listen for the things in the gaps between the words. I really look at children differently. I try to figure out, this is what I'm seeing. This is the behavior that I'm seeing. What is that behavior communicating, and what system is speaking? And only then can we figure out what does this child need right now. And asking them in the moment is not going to yield the result.
No. So that has made you have a pretty tough job as a principal, right? So it made your job easier?
It made it calmer. And I have different conversations with kids than I used to. So they come down and we just have a conversation. And I don't even talk most of the time right away about why they're there, because clearly something has fallen apart somewhere and they've been sent to the office. But we just talk, we just have a conversation. And I can see in their body language that they go from shut down or in fight or flight, and you could just start to see it melting away. And when their shoulders drop and their eye contact improves and their hands come down and their body looks ready, then we start to talk about what happened and how they were feeling and what led up to that and where did you feel it in your body. But it's a very different approach than what we used to do, right? They would come down and we'd immediately launch into, all right, what happened? Which part of the problem do you own? All of these problem solving things, but the child is dysregulated and they're not hearing any of that anyway. And they're not in the part of their brain where they can do any problem solving anyhow.
And as adults, we forget, right? We were kids once, right? If I did something wrong and I'm sitting waiting for my dad, or at school I've got into trouble or something. I never did at school, but at home I did many times. But if my dad's coming to ask me, it was almost like getting caught by a police and you have this, tell me blah, 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 blah. And you're going to get some kind of punishment at the end of it. It doesn't matter what you say, you're going to get punishment anyway. So you're like, I don't care. Whatever I say, you're going to get mad at me. So go ahead, just launch. Just get mad at me. So as you said, that is so important to just not even talk about the incident that just happened. Mm-hmm. It's better just not to even ask them anything about it, because if my dad comes and says, okay, what do you want to eat? I'm like, what? You're not going to get mad at me? You're asking me what I want to eat? Okay, this seems very different, but okay, sure. I don't know, right? It puts me off guard, because I'm ready for, he's going to fight with me, or he's going to get angry with me, and he's going to give me a punishment is what I was waiting. And now he asked me what I want to eat. Changes the whole dynamic.
And it changes their nervous system.
Yeah, I'm not ready. I'm like, okay, let's eat. What are you going to talk afterwards? Right? So we have to think of punishments. We have to think of these conversations as, okay, are they ready to have this conversation? Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
if they're not, what's the point?
Maybe the conversation happens later or tomorrow when they're in a different place. And then you can have those conversations about respect, responsibility. This is how we treat people. Would you like it if someone did that to you? That's the time for that, not in the moment.
Yeah. And you've helped some, students with our Readiness OS and as a holistic NeuroGrowth success coach in your practice, right? As in coaching, how has it changed, not just the child, but the family?
Oh, it's amazing to see a house that, was in chaos and everybody was dysregulated, because when a child is struggling and completely dysregulated, the whole house is dysregulated. Just to see after, a short time, the peace and calm restored in the house, the sense of humor of the child returning, the personality coming out, the affection returning, between parent and child. It's so rewarding to just see that shift when everyone's smiling more, and there's no more yelling, and there's no more running around and breaking things, and everything is just calm and funny and peaceful and affectionate. It's just a fantastic shift.
Yeah. And when we're able to do this in a private practice versus school, people might think, oh, it might not work in the classroom. Do you think, as a principal, looking at both the environment, you've done it in the private, you were already doing it in your school as well. You're going to do it even more. I can see that in the coming months. How do you think, like, someone might say, oh yeah, it works in the private space, not in the school, it won't work. Do you believe that?
Well, it's certainly easier. It's certainly easier when you're dealing with one child instead of, 25 or 30. Absolutely. But I still think that there are elements of it that can be brought into the classroom. But it starts with training the teachers.
Yeah, and training the parents too. Parents needs to be part of that equation.
Absolutely.
Because whatever we do has to transfer back to home.
Mm-hmm.
Because we cannot do isolated training for the child, and the teacher does something. If it doesn't carry back home, it doesn't stay with the child, and the child is in the middle between two environments that's totally different. And now we confuse them even worse, right? So it has to be a team. It has to come together. That's why we do parenting in flow labs, because parents, they need to also work together with the teachers to bring that together, and it's possible. And also, we need to stop thinking it as, I have 30 students, right? I have 30 souls in front of me. These are individual people in front of me, because I don't have a class. I have 30 individuals in front of me.
Like, and that's hard when you're faced with that, and it's frustrating. And it's important to remember that each and every one of these children is somebody's everything. And so when we're frustrated and the child is dysregulated and the class isn't learning, and it's easy to think, oh, this is so frustrating. But we have to remember that to the parents of this child is everything, and every child deserves to be able to be their very best.
Yes. So I have one more question for you, Tracy, is that if we continue to demand performance without readiness, what do you think will happen in 10 years? We won't let that, but let's just say we continue.
Well, every year it gets worse in our schools, and the number of needs that goes up exponentially. So we have to do something different, because it's not sustainable. It is just not sustainable the way it is now. So we have to, the support that we think we need is not going to ever be enough. We're never going to have enough people to sit beside every child who's dysregulated. So we have to do something different. It's just, we cannot keep going like this.
So let me ask the other way around. If readiness was implemented as the first step in our classrooms, what do you think it will become possible?
I think that learning would become much, much easier for many, many kids. I think teaching would become enjoyable again. I think a lot of teachers are losing the passion for teaching because they don't have a lot of time to teach. They spend most of their time trying to manage behavior. And it would be wonderful. They're passionate about teaching. And if we can get back to that passion, the classroom would just be a more enjoyable place to be. And everyone would be able to learn. A child who's dysregulated in a classroom takes away from the learning of everybody. So nobody is learning. That child's needs aren't being met, and no one else's needs are being met, because they can't learn with that level of dysregulation. And so if we could focus on readiness first, we'd have calmer classrooms. Learning would be fun, teaching would be fulfilling, and test scores would go up, which would please the boards and the districts, which is of course what we want. We want our children to be successful. We're missing the first piece. If we could get to that piece first, the rest would follow.
Yeah, I never had any student that I worked with or anybody I worked with over the last 25 years. When I implemented the readiness, the marks and the success, it even was shocking to the person who went through the program. They're like, I never thought I could become this or that. I never thought this was even in my career, but now I am this. And this is what I want to be, right? So that intrinsic, we talk a lot about that intrinsic motivation, but what about intrinsic accountability to what I want to become, what I want to do, responsible intrinsically for who I am and what I'm here for, right? We want students like that, right? That's powerful to have students like that. And it's possible. It's possible as long as they understand themselves and their systems, and they understand that they're living systems that are affected by variables all the time, then they can work with it. Right now, they think it's happening to them. I have no control over anything. I'm reacting, right? They're reacting to things instead of they have to understand that it's happening to me. How can I act to this? Instead of reacting, then it's a choice. It's a choice, right? So yeah, what's really stood out for me from your article, which everybody should read, it's in our magazine that's just launched, and if you want the link, it's in under this video. I have included the link. All you need to do is click the link and then put in the word flow, all in capital, and you would be able to access not just this episode issue, but all of the issues that we published. We've been doing it for almost a year and a half now. So exciting. So what stood out for me, Tracy, was that you said the system fails before the person ever does. Do you remember writing that?
I do. Yeah. And, we're not setting them up for success when we start with an assumption of readiness.
Yeah. Yeah. So readiness, when readiness is missing, nothing lands. Mm-hmm. So those of you who are feeling burned out, beat up, like nothing is working, that's why it's not working, because our kids are not ready. And when you're not ready, handles things coming at you either as an adult. We also have to be ready. Everybody has to be ready. We're all biological systems working with many variables coming at us all the time. So those consequences, not consequences cannot land. Encouragement, doesn't matter how much you bring in visuals, all of these things to encourage them, doesn't land. Strategies will not land. So I want all of you watching and listening to think about it in a different angle, different perspective, because doing something that's not working is insanity. That's what Albert Einstein said, right? It's time to rethink what we're doing, unlearn, learn, know, and remember new things that are coming at us. So thank you so much, Tracy, for coming and having this conversation, and thank you for sharing your article. Our next issue will be in April. We always have this every other month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all of you for listening.